Very good afternoon to all the participants. I, Sarla T, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, Karnataka. We welcome you all for Day 2, Session 6 of the 5-day AICT Training and Learning Academy sponsored online faculty development program on training for social connectedness and inspiration, organized by Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, Karnataka. In the morning session, we had keynote speaker for session 4 and 5, Sri Pradeep, licensed mental health professional, Government of Karnataka, and highlighted on mental health in times of pandemic. We hope all the participants will make best practice in their daily life regarding mental health. For the session 6 on social identity and societal connectedness as key to social well-being and individual transformation and how it is interlinked with nation's transformation, we have Dr. Shobha Ananda Reddy, environmental scientist, founder of Trust for Rejuvenation of Environment and Nature Development Trends, Bengaluru. On behalf of management, principal, and head of the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, we welcome you, ma'am, for this event.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce the session speaker to the participant with a brief profile. Dr. Shobha Ananda Reddy is an environmental scientist, has over 18 years of teaching, research, and practice experience spanning environment and ecology, renewable energy, integrated water management, participatory governance, and community engagement. She has a PhD in environmental science from Vinayaka Mission University, Salem, Tamil Nadu. She is a strong proponent of citizen involvement and participatory governance for positive social and environmental transformation. She worked for 12 years at Mount Carmel College, Bengaluru, where she was teaching environmental science and research methods and biostatistics. She also initiated and led the activities of Center for Scientific Research and Advanced Learning and served as member of Internal Quality Assurance Cell at Mount Carmel College. As additional director, Environment, Energy and Biofuel, Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Rural Energy and Development, she initiated and led several projects for environment and social relevance for a remote village electrification, solid waste management and integrated water management in rural areas, model heritage village projects, energy efficient government rural housing pilot project. She directed and curated content for capacity building programs for various stakeholders, namely PDOs and elected representatives for Panchayat Raj Institution, IFS, IAS, KAS, KFS officers, academicians, researchers, and students, bankers and financing institutions on environmental sustainability, renewable energy and energy conservation, integrated water management, solid waste management, green buildings, etc. In her short stint as research assistant at Energy and Environment Group, National Institute for Advanced Studies, she worked on grid connected rooftop solar programme of Government of India, grassroots innovation in energy and water security, scarcity, energy for all the policy to inclusive management forum. As a senior consultant, urban participator programme, Indian Institute for Human Settlements, she directed courses and curated contents for engineering and public health officials for various states on urban missions of Government of India. She led a series of workshops on sustainable development goals for schools and early college students. She was instrumental in information of citizen groups, Jalamitra, Guardians of Rachenahalli, which has been worked with various stakeholders for revival and maintenance of Rachenahalli Lake, Srirampura, Bengaluru. She served as a member of Western Ghat Task Force, Government of Karnataka. She is NABET QCI accredited environmental consultant for carrying out EIAs in development sector. She has also founded Trust for Rejuvenation of Environment and Nature Development, through which since 2016 several initiatives such as providing solar home lighting to homes located in remote areas, providing education to government school children, solid waste management and environmental sustainability awareness programs under citizen science and education programs. We are glad to have you as a resource person, ma'am. And I like to give over, and ma'am, you can take over the session.
Thank you so much, Professor Sarla, for an elaborate introduction of mine. And I'm sure all the participants must be wondering on a topic which is more to do with social connectedness, which is more to do with maybe humanities kind of a subject. What am I doing here as an environmental scientist? So let me tell you, I think whatever we are is because of the environment around which we live. And there's a lot of learnings that we are drawing from the nature around us and the environment around us. And from my experience of working with the nature and environment and people, I will be taking today's session. And so that's how it is planned. So the topic that I have chosen for today is social identity and social connectedness, and these two as key for societal well-being and also as an individual transformation. I think all of us realize that whatever we are is because of the surroundings, be it environment or be it people, be it the work environment in which we are, the family environment, everything. You've had wonderful sessions on mental health already. So you may have realized how much of an impact our surroundings have on us. And during the pandemic, most of you worked from home or as college faculty, you're going to college, but you're not getting to interact with the students on a regular basis. So there is already a disconnect. Now, you can see the difference between when you are in a class and interacting with your students and when you're actually just doing online teaching where it's just one way communication. So there's already a difference that you see in both of these. So we'll through the session today we will see how this whole aspect of social connectedness can help in individuals get becoming transformed from what they are to a better persons, which indirectly will also lead to societal well-being. Because if one person is healthy and good, active, energetic, the energy radiates. It's not just that one person, but then everybody else also gets benefited from that. We all have heard that one famous saying, one rotten apple is enough in the basket to spoil the rest of the apples. So likewise, if somebody is unwell or not doing well, and you know uh, the result of that person's whatever agonies or whatever issues the person is facing, it connects with everybody around that person. So it's not just the negativities, it's also the positivities. If somebody is positive and if somebody is highly energetic and enthusiastic, that spreads to the entire circle also. So that is what is the gist of this whole session, where we are going to see how mutually people can be connected and help each other. It's not necessary that we have to be blood relation. It's not necessary that we have to be related at work. We are already seeing on social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere, people don't even know each other, but then there is some sort of connectedness that is happening there. And how that can have both positive and negative impacts, that is there. But then in some way or the other, that kind of social presence and then interacting with others boosts our energy to some extent, and we feel happy about it when we share whatever is going on in our life with others. Likewise, it also, in our academic lives and in our research lives, also it matters a lot. So that's what is going to be the gist of this session today. So to begin with, I would like to request Professor Sarla to share a small video that I have. It's a 3-minute video. We'll start with the video and then we'll go about the session.
Think of the last time you spent with your family, or friends, or people you care about. How did this make you feel? Being connected with people in your life helps you feel like you belong. It even helps reduce stress, boost your immune system, lowers blood pressure, and can lengthen your life. In fact, people with strong social support are usually happier, have better mental health, and feel a stronger sense of belonging in their community. Unfortunately, people who feel alone or isolated often have poor health. In fact, new research shows that not having social relationships can shorten our lives as much as smoking over 100 cigarettes per week. But the good news is that we can all do things to change this and to help ourselves and others feel more connected. Let's look at an example. This is Sammy. He just moved to a new city and does not have any family there. Because his new job takes up a lot of his time, he hasn't made any close friends yet. He comes home from work most days and spends time by himself watching TV or on his computer. He misses having his family around and is starting to feel a little more sad and tired each day. So what can Sammy do to get better connected with others? Sammy can start by getting out and exploring his new neighborhood. Maybe he can check out his community center to see what activities they have there. He can have lunch or go for a walk with his new coworkers. Sammy loves cycling but doesn't know the area. He could visit a bike shop to see if there are neighborhood bike groups or look online for a bike group to join. Volunteering is another great way to get connected in your community. He could check out Volunteer Canada, the local newspaper, or local agencies to see where volunteer help is needed. Like most of us, there may be a time when Sammy needs a little more help. When moving to a new city, recovering from an illness, or going through a life change, calling someone you trust or talking to a mental health professional can really help. If available, Sammy could get support from his Employee Assistance Program or call 211 to find out about programs and resources for support. The reality is that we all need people in our life during good times and during tough times. Make sure to reach out when you need help. Be open to accept help when it's offered and help others in return. So now, try to think about something you can do to make your connection stronger. Are there people in your life or groups that you could reach out to? How about others in your community who would benefit from more connections? Could you offer to make a meal for a new parent or caregiver, or maybe a neighbor who's having a tough time? Write all of your ideas down and pick one thing you can do this week to get more connected or help others get more connected. Even small things, like holding the door for someone, taking out the garbage for your neighbor, bringing food to someone in need. These can all lead to big changes that can improve your connections, your physical health, and your mental health. For more info and resources on building social connections, check out havethattalk.ca. Brought to you by Ottawa Public Health with support from Bell Let's Talk.
You can stop it, ma'am. Yeah, so I'm sorry I could not find an Indian video on this, a related video. So this is from Canada, and you can ignore the parts where it was specific about it. But then I hope you got the gist of what it is. Now through the session, we will be going through most of the content that you saw there. So I'll share the screen and then we can start the session. Ma'am, can you confirm if the screen is seen?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as I said, the theme is social identity and social connectedness as key to societal well-being and individual transformation. So as I said, all of us want to transform, all of us on a daily basis aspire to be better than what we are today or what we were yesterday, isn't it? So when we say this kind of transformation, it is not something that will come to us by just sitting inside or being lost in our own closet or sitting in our comfort of our home or office. It requires that external communication with others, and all of us inherently keep seeking some sort of external validation. We want somebody to appreciate for what we have done. We want somebody to say that what we are doing is right or whatever it is. This external validation is something that all of us seek. Some people, of course, have moved beyond that, who don't really require that external validation because they know what they're doing is right. So many of us are not there yet. So in such situations, it is this belonging to some social groups or networking with others is what uh, comes handy to us, and then it helps us in some way or the other to change and learn on a regular basis and become different people than what we are. So we'll just see what uh, is this all about. So this is just a diagrammatic representation of, or a flow of, what do we mean by identity. All of you as faculty or college students receive an identity card, isn't it? What will be written in that? Your photograph will be there, your name, and your whatever other details are provided there. So that is your identity card to say that you belong to that institution. And then you have other details so that people can reach out to you during that time. So basically, this concept of identity is very, very important, because we hear a lot of times, a lot of people during their mid 40s and 50s are seeking for their identity. Many people just go with the flow of life, and then, schooling is over, college is over, and then job is being done. And then at some point of time, they're like, what am I? Who am I? Kind of questions come to their mind. Many people, we have heard of many people saying, I don't know what is the purpose of my life, and things like that. So, that identity, what they refer to, is nothing but identifying themselves with the surroundings. There are many people who feel a lot more disconnected with their own families and with the surroundings. And that's essentially because of lack of this kind of social connectedness right from beginning. So now we'll see what this basic identity of an individual means. It's basically your presence somewhere, your physical presence somewhere, either your home address or your college or whatever it is, or your affiliation to some place. And then your relationships with others also contribute to your own identity. Your reputation, both in the family and your society, contribute to your identity. The groups that you network with, like, as children, if you're playing, maybe there is a cricket group in the colony, and then you end up playing with them. You go every day evening and then play with them, then you identify yourself as cricket group. Similarly, there may be another group doing something else, so you are identifying yourself with that group. Similarly, the kind of conversations we have with different people also can help us find our own identity. Like, for example, some of us may be not inclined to be indulging in gossips, whereas we may be inclined towards talking something about political issues or about, the sports. So then you belong to those kind of groups. So the conversations that you have on a regular basis with others also gives you some sort of an identity. And then how you share and care for others also contributes to our own identity. So these are various factors which contribute to our identity. uh, Now in the society, the basic social construct is that we are categorized. Our social identity is defined by essentially the gender, women, men, or transgender, and then maybe the race to which we belong, or the age group. Our these are different anyway. The religion to which we belong, the class or our abilities. Like in a class, teachers normally categorize students as brilliant, average, below average. So like that, those are dependent on the ability. Society has its own way of categorizing people and then giving them some sort of social identity by itself also. So these are essential ways in which individual identity and then social identity comes from these things. I don't say this is not social identity, it's a mix of both. Now, normally in the society, we have some sort of categorization that already happens, where humans are, belonging to different categories. Like we said here, the race it could be, or the religion it could be, or other things. And then comes the social identification of a particular human being belonging to that particular group. how I identify myself in that group, whether I put myself in the age group category or whatever it is, it depends on that. And then there is always the social comparison that goes on. We compare ourselves with others, and that is when the competition starts. And the whole reason why we are doing this session, if you look at the theme that you have, is it says social connectedness and inspiration. So I think all of us must look up to our peers or colleagues or friends only from the point of view of inspiration and not as competition. We must always aspire to collaborate with people if possible. If it is not possible for us to collaborate, then I think we must move on. Instead of indulging in competing with people and trying to put down each other and then we ourselves suffering, it doesn't help anybody in the process. So it is something like, when this kind of social comparison happens, when people belonging to the same group start comparing themselves with others, or somebody else compares us with others, then there is tendency of working at cross purposes with each other, and then eventually it leads to the destruction of both that individual as well as the whole group effort. So that is very, very important. And so the key is, do not look at your peers or your group. When you do the social comparison, keep it only as a comparison, only for the sake of drawing inspiration from others. Look at the good in everybody, look at the good in others. And if possible, you also build yourself to that level. But we must also understand that all of us are not blessed with the same capacities and talents. Each one of us are unique individuals, and we have our own strengths and limitations, and we must work within those the boundaries. So that's an essential thing that we must learn. So this is where the whole problem can start. So that is why societal well-being has a lot to do with how an individual behaves. So let's say, for example, you have a college or a classroom, and then there is one student who's very mischievous and who's troubling the class. Then what happens to the whole class? The whole class gets branded by the teacher and the principal as notorious batch, a troublesome batch, and things like that. So likewise, if there is one student who is very good in the class, that doesn't relate to the whole class. They will only say this particular student is good. They will not say that class is very good. Whereas that particular individual who is good, if at all, the others in the class can draw inspiration from that person and also try to aspire to become like that person, then the whole group can also become better. So that's very, very important. Stop looking at everything as competition. Now, why does this concept of competition, or why this feeling of wanting to be better than others, or that self-indulged competitive mood comes, is because of self-esteem. Sometimes when we see somebody else doing much better than us, then the tendency is to feel, okay, that person has all the resources, I don't have the resources. And then we start going in this guilt trip that, I'm not able to perform, I'm not able to do, and things like that. And that also starts affecting our self-esteem in many ways. Now, as college, I've also worked in college, and I've realized one thing, that there's already a lot of pressure on the faculty. We have our regular teaching responsibilities, and then there are other administrative responsibilities, and there is also this requirement of performance audits, and then we are also supposed to deliver on research outputs and things like that. Now, instead of us looking at it as only me doing it, individual doing it, if I collaborate with others and work, then there is definitely possibility for me to deliver better, because I am also limited by many other problems that I'm having. Likewise, the other person also is limited. But if two people work together in collaboration, it is possible to produce better results than one person working individually. Now, that collaboration can happen within the institution, it can happen outside the institution, or wherever it is. Basically, that collaboration and support system has to be established somewhere to overcome the problems of too many responsibilities. It's possible to do that. Now, this kind of competitive mindset eventually starts affecting the self-esteem of people. Now, what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is nothing but being confident about what we are doing, and also it starts affecting our delivery. The minute we start questioning our self-esteem or feeling low about ourselves, then our whole daily routine, everything starts getting affected gradually, and it will show up in our performance and in our work and everywhere. So this need for self-esteem of a person comes from two things. One is personal identity that this person has, and the social identity the person has. Now, when we say personal identity, we are referring to the inclusion of this person in the group or in the institution or within the friend circle or within the family circle also, it may be. So how all that is placed also matters a lot. If somebody is going through a lot of personal issues in the family, then they will not be able to maintain their personal identity as normal. It will show up in some way or the other, and that person will either be impacted by that in some way or the other. So we see normally some people are very grumpy all along. Why? That's because of their upbringing or their family environment, and so many other things also matter a lot. And what achievements that person is able to do and satisfy his own need, personal need, also matters a lot. And when it comes to social identity, it is in the group in which this person belongs. In the group achievement, what role this person is able to have to achieve that group achievement matters a lot. And similarly, there may be factors like group favoritism, and there could be sometimes, people can be impacted by this. There may be a group of, let's say, 7 8 people, and then within that group, maybe either by religion or either by language dominance or whatever it is, people may have some favoritism, and then 1 or 2 people may be left out. If it is 1 or 2 people, it is still okay because they have company. But if it is one person left out and being affected by this group favoritism, then it definitely affects the self-esteem of the person in many ways. And outgroup rejection, when I say outgroup, it is nothing but we identifying ourselves with some group as, whether we belong to that group or not. When we don't have that kind of acceptance in a group, and we are not accepted in a group, that is when this outgroup rejection factors come in, and then this also affects the self-esteem of the individual. So both these personal and social identity play an important role, and it can, the person can go from this competitive mindset to low self-esteem status quickly, if precautions are not taken, and if the person does not identify where he is heading. So we just discussed about what is personal identity all about, and we saw social identity. Both are related, interlinked, and then comes your social identity. Essentially, is also part of your social categorization. It influences that, and then you either belong to some or the other social groups, like we discussed earlier. It could be language based group, region based group, or same thinking kind of group, or similar interests kind of group, or whatever it is. So if at all we feel belonged to that kind of distinct social group, then we become in group, we become a part of that group. Then we look at everything as we. Whereas, if at all that social group is not matching with our ways of thinking, a particular situation, and then we will never have the belongingness, and we start seeing others as different from us, even though we belong to that group by force. This can be a very, very harmful situation when something like this happens. And when everything is matching, and then when you belong to the group, or when you belong to that whatever, the team that you are working with, there will be satisfied social identity for that person. He or she will feel belonged, and then there is more need, more desire to contribute, more to help each other, seek help from the other person, and then grow well. Whereas in this case, there is always reluctance because we don't feel belong to that group at all, and then we are never going to seek out any help. And when we are in trouble, it's only we who end up suffering, and this leads to dissatisfied social identity, ultimately affecting not only the person but also the entire group. So it is essential for us to constantly see where we belong, whether it is a particular institution, or whether it is a smaller group of work that we are doing, or whatever it is. We need to quickly be able to see whether I am in group person or I am out group in this particular social group that I belong to. When this happens, that is when the person will be able to uh, you know uh, perform better and be in a good mental health. When we are like this, everything starts getting affected, both our personal life, our professional life, everything starts getting affected because of this. This is a very, very good situation where everything will go well. Both personal, mental health, professional health, everything will be fine. Now, I'd like to just describe Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So basically, Maslow was a researcher who proposed this hierarchy of needs of individuals. One is, of course, we need basic needs like food, water, shelter, everything else. Sick, and these we call them as physiological needs to keep our body in good state. And then, of course, we also have safety needs, sense of security, that is your shelter, home, or safety in case I am in trouble, somebody to on whose shoulders I can rely, and then some support that I can get. That's also an important aspect. So these are the basic needs of any human being. We also have psychological needs. Now, these psychological needs can be grouped as belongingness and love needs, which can come from the intimate relationships that we have within our family and friends. And of course, the self esteem needs are very, very important. The prestige, the identity that person is able to relate himself with others, and the feeling of accomplishment. Even we might see small children when we give them this work of the games, when we play with them, maybe a puzzle joining or whatever it is. Just look at the face of a child when he's able to put everything together. That feeling of accomplishment will encourage that child to do something more, much better. Same way, at all stages in our life, when we are able to achieve something or when we are able to perform something better, there is always that constant desire to do something more and much better. So that feeling of accomplishment is very, very essential for us to feel our self-esteem in place. Then, of course, we also have self fulfillment needs. Uh, it's like, some of us may feel my capacity is different. Why am I being asked to do this small job and things like that? So, basically, all of us at some point of time know our full potential. And then we want to achieve that stage. And it could be, all kind of activities. Like, let's say, for example, a teacher may not be interested in doing the trivial administrative responsibilities, but whereas his inclination may be towards doing some very good research, but he or she is not getting that kind of time to do that kind of research. But finances are important, so the job that you're doing demands you to contribute, give time to this and that. Then how do you achieve your self actualization? You can't by yourself engage yourself in the research 100% because you don't have that kind of time. Then you start delegating your responsibilities or collaborating with others. Then you can do this self fulfillment. And for this to happen, it is essential for us to have all these things in place. And we should have the mindset of belongingness somewhere, and then feeling the desire to collaborate with others, and then work. So that is when it is possible for us to achieve anything. Now, just on a lighter note, uh, this is Maslow's hierarchy. Few years ago, people had started making fun of it, saying, in mid 2000s, 2005, 6, people used to make fun by saying, now to this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, internet is added, and then later it became Wi-Fi. Now it's the battery life of our mobile, and everything else also matters a lot, right? So whether we like it or not, though these are the actual hierarchy of needs of human beings, today in the digital era, we are in a state where all these also are essential part of our life. Now, many people are also relying on, these other needs, like being on social media platforms to make use of our creativity, and to make friendships with people, and other things. We are relying on these things. I'm not saying it is wrong, but then we need to think whether we want to go this way, or we want to look at this as our basic hierarchy of our needs. So we need to limit these things only. You might have heard a lot of jokes circulating which says, I have 5,000 followers, and that this person has 5,000 followers on Facebook, but then when he was not well, there was not a single person by his side. So having 5,000, 10,000 friends, distant friends, unknown people on social media platforms is very different from having a good friend by your side, or a good relationship with somebody by your side, to whom you can just pick the phone and talk to that person, or talk to that person in person, and then share all your um, issues or whatever it is. On a Facebook with a random person, you can't really say things. Now, in the last few months, we have seen many people taking their lives. This is not something new, it is all coming out now. It has been happening for decades. People have been, getting affected by loneliness and suffering, and unfortunately these platforms are also adding to it, because you end up seeing other people's life and you see that everything is rosy as they're posting there, but it might not be the truth. So let us have limited usage of these, and then focus more on achieving these things through actual relationships with people around us, be it family or friends. Okay, now let us, we just saw about social identity. Now we look at what actually is the social connectedness. Now, this is one small image of plants and trees in the environment. And we generally see them as individual tree, similar to how we see 10 people standing in the place and then 10 trees in a garden. Trees and us are same. So it is proven scientifically that each of them are connected, and there is some sort of an indirect messaging networking that is going on between these plants and trees. And that is nothing but some sort of connectedness between them. It could be for nutrients, or it could be for, the water requirements or whatever other things. So basically, social connectedness is defined as sense of belonging, and it's also a psychological bond that we feel with others, either other individuals or the groups that we belong to. So as long as the social connectedness is maintained well, everything could be going well for an individual. So why this social connectedness is important now? It has a direct bearing on our good mental health. If I am disconnected from people, totally disconnected from people, and then one or two persons I am very close to, that's also good social connectedness, which will help you maintain, good mental health. It is scientifically proven that maintaining good social connectedness also increases life expectancy of many people. uh, I mean, one simple example for this is the rural lives and then the city lives. If you look at it, in the rural areas, people, they spend a lot of time with each other, and the life expectancy is a lot better there compared to the cities. In cities, we are glued to our own homes and then TV screens and things like that. Like that. So there is some sort of an impact on our life expectancy here. It also helps in better cognitive health. When I say cognitive health, it is nothing but our ability to think and our ability to do some intellectual things. That is what is cognitive health. So maintaining good social connectedness can help even improve our cognitive health to a great extent. This also influences the companionship, the feelings. It also helps us get our emotional support and also the informational support. When I say informational support, it basically means when we are unable to make a decision or judgment, and when we have to choose between some options, the social connectedness helps us to arrive at what may be the best for us when we discuss it out with others. It could also give us some sort of instrumental or material help. Like, for example, I'm short of something today, and then I can always seek out to my social network and ask them to help me with whatever needs I have. Like, let's say, for example, I want to charge my mobile, and then I don't have any means to do it today. I can call my friend and just ask that person, can you please do it for me? Or I mean, the simplest thing we see in between neighbors is some sugar, dal, whatever is over. They reach out to the neighbors and then try to get it from them. Uh, Similarly, I want to take leave as a faculty, and then I'm supposed to exchange my hour with somebody else. Then, if you don't have good social connectedness maintained with your colleagues, you will never be able to ask your colleague or somebody else to compensate for that class. Then you will be in a discomfortable or disadvantaged situation to manage your class on the day when you want to take leave. So it has its own many ways of having benefits from this kind of maintaining social connectedness. So here's a small research work that I want to quote, some 2 3 research works. So basically, this is how it is related to increased life expectancy. Some research that was done by Berkman and Syme. They showed that social engagement and mortality was was studied for the first time in the year 1979. And their research focused on California volunteers aged between 30 and 69 years. And they found that loneliness was the major cause of early death. People had started dying in the age of 60s itself. So they were trying to identify the reason. I mean, the volunteers who had enrolled for the research program, they found that this factor of loneliness was one major cause for early death in people. And the data from their research, the mortality data that was collected, it was collected for about 17 years. It's not a 1 or 2 years of research. 17 years of research proves that this maintaining social relationships or having social engagement is directly related to the life expectancy of people. And also, social connectedness is particularly important for life expectancy of people aged over 70 years. This I think all of us can very much relate to. If you look at between 20s and 30s, we are all busy in our academics, and we will definitely depend on others, and then we will want to be associated with others, and then we will continue to maintain some sort of social engagement. But then in 40s and 50s, we are busy making our career, and then we are almost at the peak of reaching a peak of our careers. And we tend to see that kind of professional jealousy around us, and then something or the other, and we slowly start disconnecting ourselves from people around us in many ways. It happens also. Even otherwise, we are busy with work and with family pressures and everything else. So it may not impact us so much in those years. But then after 60s and 70s, what happens is we no longer have the kind of work that we do. We don't have the physical stamina to do a lot of work. Therefore, not having good social networking or good social relationships at that age can have a severe impact on the lives of people. Slowly, the person's mind starts deteriorating at that age. So statistically, it has been proven that it impacts both physical health and then various other behaviors also. So there was another research, which was a longitudinal study where integrating social support networks was studied uh, on the level of depression, or to what extent the person can go to depression. So even in this study, there were a lot of research volunteers enrolled. So basically, this research involved two kind of grouping. So what they did was they put people in only one group. Like, let's say, for example, a group of 10 people were there and one individual put in that group. Whereas the other group that they were studying, in that group, they put people in different, they made people interact with multiple groups. Like, let's say, for example, me as an individual, now I'm made to interact only with SVCE college. That is group number one, which is represented in the blue. And the other part of the research belonged, some XYZ was made to interact with SVCE, Nitya Meenakshi, and some another college. So like that, multiple groups, they were made to interact with more group memberships. So the result was shocking, because I mean, what comes out is that 24% decrease in depression was seen in people with only one group. Meaning, definitely being in the group mattered a lot, and that there was some impact on the person going into depression, and the person was able to save himself by 24%, people, whoever was part of the research. Whereas people who were put in multiple groups, more than one or two groups, there the result was even better. 63% decrease in rate of depression was seen in this case. Again, it depends on the individual personality, whether in spite of being put in the group, whether I'm interacting or not also matters a lot. But so basically, the ultimate message here is that if individual is connected with multiple groups, it can help the person protect himself from development of depressive moods or bad health, for mental health for himself. And it can also work as a social cure for preventing ourselves from getting into mental health disorders. And then today, I think we are having not only the social issues, but also the chemicals that we are consuming and a lot of other things, they're already having an impact on our hormones and our brain activity and many other things. So the food intake itself to a great extent is causing, plus the pollution around us in terms of air pollution is also having some impact on the brain, on the mental health. In addition to that, this kind of belongingness to multiple groups and social interaction uh, can, not maintaining these social interactions can affect very badly. Whereas if we maintain, then there is this much possibility of preventing ourselves from not getting into bad situations for ourselves. Uh, so yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So this particular research, it's the same research that I described in the previous one. So they found that those who participated in one or two group activities displayed 13% fewer cognitive deficiencies also. Only uh, about 13% was the impact on the cognitive thinking ability. Whereas people who participated in more than 2-3 groups, 33% fewer deficiencies were there. So both on going into depression in this case, and also cognitive deficiencies, possibility of developing cognitive deficiencies also can be minimized if we maintain better social connectedness and if we interact with many more groups. Now when I say many more groups, it need not be the same peer groups. It could be like, for example, an individual is there, that individual may be interacting with his neighborhood people, that is one group. Apartment association, if it is there, that is one group. He may have some hobbies like painting, drawing, sketching, or cycling, or whatever it is, that could be another group with which he's interacting. There could be another group which is within the family also, cousins or whatever it is, that's another set with whom he may be interacting. And at work, maybe another group is there. So if such varied interactions are maintained and well maintained, it has an impact on both cognitive development and also on the mental health. So individual relationships were actually not seen in this particular research because that has its own impact. So here it is only the study about group indulgence. The data basically suggests that there may be particular value in targeting and developing group-based relationships when it comes to preserving cognitive health. So many times we see that a lot of students, start underperforming. First year they're very good, but then second year, third year they start going down. And then, as a teacher or as a mentor, it becomes our responsibility to, to oversee or supervise that student. And what will we do? The first thing that comes to our mind is we put that person with another intelligent student, our perceived person, who is whoever we perceive as intelligent. We try to put that child with that person, but we fail to see whether that child, the child who is underperforming, is seeing the other intelligent or other high performing child as somebody from whom he can draw inspiration and then do better, or whether he is just looking at him as, his self-esteem may start getting affected when something like that is done. So whether that will really help or not is something that we have to assess and think. So it requires a proper assessment of with whom this person can gel well, with whom this person can get along, uh, to help him perform better. That becomes him or her perform better. That becomes very, very important. So we have to do a lot more than just connecting that person with one more person, then just letting them be on their own. We may be doing more harm by doing that, because the underperforming person may start feeling much more guiltier and much more low self-esteem when they're connected with somebody who's doing very well. Because the person who is doing very well, may she or he himself may also not be somebody who is open to sharing and caring and providing that kind of help with the other person. So it's also scientifically proven that social connectedness has a direct bearing on a lot of our physiological mechanisms. So if a person is socially isolated, meaning not interacting with anyone and then trying to remain isolated, we have seen in the previous examples that it directly influences mortality. And this early mortality can also be some sort of social disadvantage. There may be people who are dependent on that person, or somebody who likes that person may start getting affected by that and other things. This is a different part. But then how this mortality can happen is because of these many ways of biological pathways related to stress that can start taking place when a person is socially isolated. When a person is socially isolated, he's constantly under stress, some or the other kind of stress. So that impacts the ability to both fight diseases, his immunity, and everything gets affected. And therefore, it can cause damage to the neural systems and other things. And this increased stress levels also impacts the cortisol and cytokine level. Cortisols are nothing but, in a way, we can call them as energy hormones or something like that. So, which means if cortisol levels are lower, then our energy levels will be lower, and the way we can be active and all that gets affected. We are constantly under fatigue, tired, everything will be there. That comes from this constantly being under stress, and then this one, and this is very much related to the social isolation. If I'm not interacting with others and not being socially socially involved, it can start affecting this directly, and then affect this comes into effect, and then we try to put ourselves to live under stress constantly, and that will very soon start affecting our health mechanism very badly. So this way, social connectedness or being isolated can have a direct impact. The reverse of this is when a person is well connected socially, he may have better life, he will not be under stress. Rather than that, he will definitely, the stress levels can be relieved because you're engaging in different dialogues, you're forgetting your stress factors for that moment when you're interacting with others. And then there is better release of cortisols and cytokines, which will start helping our other hormones to be in a better state. So we are not going to be under stressful situation in such case when we are socially well connected. So that again influences our long life and good healthy life. The physiological effects of social connectedness appear to protect against the development of carotid artery or atherosclerosis also, and even the cardiovascular diseases can be prevented according to some studies. That's also proven. And studies have examined impact of social connectedness via perceptions of social support. So how maintaining this kind of relationship with others, or in the groups, can bring in different kind of social support mechanism is also very, very important. That also has been seen, and there is a dynamic relationship definitely between the physiological factors and the psychological factors and processes, which help protect our health to a great extent. We might have All of you might have experienced it yourselves in the last almost 9 months now, the pandemic. First of all, we had the stress of what is going to happen and future, nothing is known. That's a different factor. Psychological fear factor was there. Apart from that, just staying home for that 3 weeks of lockdown period, and then continued lockdown and things like that, when it happened, definitely all of us were affected in some way or the other. You compare your that state to the minute you started coming back to work, and of course there was sense of, with somebody you're talking, you're interacting, and then it had started uh, you know creating some sort of energy within you, some positivity within you, and that definitely protects us from losing our health. We are walking, we are talking with people, we are exchanging ideas, we are sharing our problems with others. So that way, this social interaction can help us in many ways. So the kind of social support that comes from being connected with others can have two levels of support mechanism. One is structural, the other one is functional. When we say structural, it is mostly established within the social construct in which we are living. So, like for example, the marital status. I mean, at least the whole concept of marriage or the institution of marriage is seen as something where both spouses are there to support each other through all their whether good times, bad times, everything, and then that is continuously happening. And not just the spouses, but it's also the relatives who come together as part of that relationship are also uh, working as social support system in many ways. It may be blood relation, or it may be relationship brought in support, but it is still a social support mechanism. The living arrangements that we make, uh, the neighborhoods in which we live or the colonies in which we live. That also matters a lot. The size of the network. So if the group is too big, again, the kind of social support that you may get, maybe there are more people to reach out to help, but how well connected comes to play there. And the composition of the group also, the structure also matters a lot. When I say composition, if you have people with whom you don't get along in the group and you want to expect some sort of support from them, that is not going to happen. So that is where I said right in the beginning, it is important to identify ourselves as part of the group or out group. If you're not part of the group, then that is where this composition plays an important role. So we need to fit ourselves in right group. Being in the right place is also very, very important. The sources of social support can be the individuals within the group, or the group as a collective can also help in many ways. So, I mean, if I have to take a simple example, I was working for a lake when I was being troubled severely by the local goons. My entire group of 8 9 people who were part of the core group committee, I don't have any relationship with them. We all came together only for the sake of that one lake protection. They all came in and supported me, and then 30 40 other people on the WhatsApp group also came forward and supported. So you never know how this support system can evolve. It could be an individual, or the entire group itself can also come and support. And frequency of social support also matters. Like, for example, somebody is constantly in need of support. Then it may not be just one person, but multiple people in the group may take that support and then provide us that kind of support. So constantly support is available. It's not like, today this person is not there, A and B, let's say they were always helping me, and today they are not there, so I'm not going to get any help. It won't be like that. When the size is bigger, then you may have more people coming forward to support us. So those are the structural ways of social support mechanism. Functional support, which help us to basically take forward our regular day-to-day functions. And for our regular day-to-day functions to be proper or good, we need our emotional health to be good, our physical health to be good, and our what do I say, our self-esteem to be in good condition. So this type of support that can come here is emotional support. Definitely, if I'm feeling very bad or upset, I can always share it with the social group with whom I'm working, and then I may feel relieved. I may get some tangible benefits like the mobile, some product or some physical material, exchange of some material. I want a book, or I want water, or whatever it could be. That kind of support also you will get. Informational and appraisal support, like, I've done well, but then nobody's appreciating me. Then I can share it in that group, and then I can feel good that, okay, others didn't appreciate, but then my group is appreciating me. Or I'm stuck up in a situation where I'm unable to take decisions, then the group can help me analyze it rationally and take some good decisions. And then you may have some confidant within that group with whom you can share all kind of your personal issues or whatever it is, and that person can just not be judgmental and just hear you out and let you vent out. This is something which everybody requires, and this is the basic functional support which all of us need. All of us in our life need somebody or the other who will act as a confidant to us, who can hear us out without arriving at any judgments about us, and allow us to vent out in whatever it is. I've not done well in the exams, I've not done well in my appraisals, or I've not done well in my class today, or whatever it may be. So that's very important. Most of us rely on writing it in books, isn't it? When we feel very upset, we'll just sit down and then write notes and then tear that page and then throw it. That is one way of doing it. Or just go sit in front of God and pray to Him. That is also one thing. But then instead of those, it's always better to find one good support system. It could be a group or an individual where this kind of support also can come. And it is possible to get it from here. And a sense of satisfaction, like, for example, mutual exchange. I am able to help somebody else in the group, then I feel satisfied that I've helped somebody. And that sense of satisfaction will motivate us to do something more, much better. and it will also prevent us from getting into social isolation. So there can be, uh, there could be some perceived support, whereas the actual received support may be lesser. So it doesn't mean that, sometimes we expect our friend circle to do something for us, and it doesn't come to us. So that is our perceived support system. We are expecting them to help us, but then it has not come. So when it has not come, it doesn't mean I have to get upset, disappointed, or whatever it is. You have to accept it as, that's how things are, and then look forward to that kind of support from some other social group that you have where everything else matters. And it cannot be something where I want to be in a group because I want to get all these kind of support mechanism. It doesn't work like that. It has to be mutual. If I belong to a group, if I'm taking help from there, I should also contribute in some way or the other. Okay. So these are different kind of psychological mechanisms. One is emotional support. It helps us get rid of stressful life events and situations, and it can influence our longevity, our lifestyle. Instrumental, as we discussed, some sort of material help, informational problem solving help, basically. So the support that is there can help us manage the problems that we are facing or help us find some solutions. And self efficacy is a very important thing that comes from this kind of social networking or social connectedness. It's basically the confidence with which we can perform anything that we are taking up in our lives. So if at all I'm well connected, and if I'm having good social support, then I will be confident to take up new tasks and then perform them. If I don't have the support system, then my self efficacy gets affected. I will not be in a position to take on new responsibilities with that kind of responsibility. So till now we saw the positive sides of social connectedness. The social connectedness can also have detrimental impact on us and then affect us in many ways. I, all of you must have heard enough or read enough about what was being circulated about Sushant Singh Rajput, the Hindi Bollywood movie actor. So basically, there were all these sorts of news coming out saying that he was an outcast. He was never seen as a part of the Bollywood, and that is why he suffered from depression. And then, that kind of statements we have heard. How much of it is true is not to be disputed here. I brought up that because that kind of things we have seen in many of our other live situations. Like, for example, even when a group of children are playing, if one child is somebody who is very, very shy and not able to play like others, that child becomes an outcast. The child will not be taken into the group. So that kind of not being taken into the group is nothing but a negative support that is coming from that social group, and that child can start slipping into depression, and such people can get affected negatively in many ways. It can also give lot of criticism. So there could be many factors due to which people may not give constructive criticism, but then people may just give criticism for the sake of criticizing. Then it becomes very difficult. That's also an important aspect. And the group may have excessive demands, and then some people within the group may also have this oppressive social control they may want to have. Like, for example, some people may want to dominate, and they may not like anybody else with equal intellect or with equal capacity than them in the group. Then they start becoming oppressive, and that kind of oppressive social control in smaller groups like this can have severe detrimental impact. It can affect the psychology of people. We have heard enough about this in workplaces, especially the corporates. We see a lot of this kind of thing happening today, and so that can be very, very dangerous. So that is why it is important for us to identify ourselves as somebody who belongs to a particular group of our similar thinking and our similar abilities. So lack of support either by an individual or group member can also be dependent on the circumstances of those individuals or group members, and also us. I may also not be proactive in seeking support. That's also important. And then if everybody is in the group is facing similar stressors, then it can also manifest as ego. And that itself, can start affecting the whole support system, and it can prove to be very detrimental to the life of others. This is very, very important. How social connected is connected to the brain. We have seen already about the what do I say, the cognitive impact of social connectedness, where it's proven that having interactions with multiple groups can help uh, preserve cognitive efficiencies by 33%. So basically, to a great extent, the social relationships can our the way we think or the way we see perceive things is directly proportional to the way we maintain our social connections. And this drive to maintain or form newer social relationships is also related to our, the kind of family environment in which we are, or the kind of supportive structures we have had all along from our childhood till date also matters a lot. If I am somebody who has always seen neighbors being, coming with bad attitude, then I'm going to have that as a bias in my mind, and I don't want to. Even if I move to a new place, I will not interact with new neighbors. So these also, this is how the opinions are formed in the brain, and then that how that can manifest and impact our further social relationships also is very, very important. uh, yeah. And then to a great extent, even the genetics play an important role, and sociability of individuals, and the type of people with whom we want to interact or we may interact also depends on our genetic makeup to a great extent. Some people may be genetically made in such a way that uh, they may be highly intellect, and then what happens is whatever they are talking, other people may not connect to them. Their interests are different, so it just doesn't that ability to interact with others may not come at all to the people. And individual differences in social ability, which manifest at different levels of brain structure and function, also can influence the person's social networking, connectedness, and everything else. So this is what it is, how the brain can, have social network can have an impact on brain, and likewise how the brain itself can have an impact on our social behavior. And it can also, our social network can help us maintain mental health. Therefore our brain may be, social brain may be good, whereas if my social brain is good, then my mental health also will be good. Similarly, if I am in a better uh, situation with my social brain, then my social behavior with others also will be good. So this way, it's all interconnected. The genetics, mental health, our social behavior, and the social networking matters a lot. Uh, so, how the society with which we interact can have an influence on our individual behavior is also an important factor. It influences the individual behavior traditionally. We have seen that. So, it's basically a direct interaction with others. We can say peer to peer because in a college, if you're interacting with your other colleague, both of you are colleagues, both of you are faculty, both of you have done engineering in the same subject, you become peers. And the kind of interaction you're having, you will be able to discuss the problems associated with that particular subject also, and understand and then talk openly in such situations. And yeah, this I will skip, that is not related to you. The different types of influences this kind of social behaviors can have are grouped under three categories. One is homophily. Homophily refers to the tendency for similar individuals to form social ties. Like, for example, um, let's say, for example, the example given here is of drug users. We'll not use that example, but let's say, for example, you have college students. One student has come from Rajasthan, and then his tendency will be to look at students from Rajasthan only, mostly. Or if he has come from some particular school, then the tendency is to look for students who come from the same school, or same region, or same caste could be another example. Or it could even be the way we think or our practices. Like, say, for example, if a person plays badminton, then he would want to maintain his social ties with somebody else also in the class, or somebody else in the professional workplace who's also playing badminton. Or eateries. going to eateries, food outlets. I like this, so the other person also may like that. Then that kind of maintaining uh, social ties with like similar individuals is called as homophily. Second one is this whether it is like-minded people, unlike-minded people, whatever it is, basically the social behavior of one person can also cause similar behavior in others. We normally say in Kannada, there's a saying. It says, I mean, the like the other example that I said of one rotten apple is enough to spoil the entire basket. Similarly, if one person's behavior is bad or good, it can influence the people around. It may not influence 100%, but to some extent, that influence is always there. So that is where people have to be cautious about, how I want to absorb the good and bad from the others, and draw boundaries to make sure that I don't absorb the bad from the other people is also very, very important. And there are also environmental confounds. Confounds are nothing but interrelated things or something related to another one. So some external influence can also cause, can bring in people and connect them. Like, for example, my own example of how we came together to conserve one lake. So we all came together because our common factor was to protect the lake, and then we were able to connect ourselves out of our profession, out of our personal lives. Our common goal was lake conservation, so we all came together for that. So that is an environmental confounding kind of a social connecting factor. Uh, this can also eventually lead to social contagion. So I may be, like two people A and B may be knowing each other, and then because of then B may be knowing C. So because of this relationship, A will also start knowing C, and then similarly B knows D or C knows D or E, and then likewise the entire group eventually starts getting connected and networked, and that we call as social contagion, which can uh, prove to be very good. uh, Either professionally it may help them, it may help them manage several other kind of problems each one is facing in many ways. So basically, to conclude, social relationships matter a lot for our health, and whatever may be our age and our situation, some relationships are very, very protective than many others that we have in our lives. And our knowledge of the mechanisms through which the social connectedness is protecting our health is gradually growing, because now people are studying more about it. More research results are being put out. 17, 20, 30 years of research results are being put out on how this understanding is also helping. So if you look at mental health illness issues, we have NIMHANS in Karnataka. Most of these mental health issues were not even being discussed, at least last till maybe late 2010 also. If you look at it, many people were not even acknowledging that there is an issue like this. But now there is increasing evidence, and there is increased awareness among people, and also we realize that there is something called social connectedness that can help, and this group activities can help. So the kind of treatments that are given for mental health issues also have now moved beyond just giving medications to put that person, so basic mental health issues are being treated by giving them some serotins and some serotides, which will just put that person to sleep, and mood elevating chemicals will be given to the person. But now it is proven that social relationships and social engagement can help people overcome whatever psychological issues they are facing. So most of the uh, organizations which are into mental health treatments are now going into group behavioral therapies. They bring in people of similar psychological issues, and they make them interact with each other. That also has proven to help people overcome a lot of their problems. So many a time psychological issues are directly related to the physiological issues also that they are facing. So both then will get addressed, and then that's also helpful in many ways. Individual behavior can, to a great extent, influence the social connectedness. It could be positive or negative. Likewise, the social connectedness also can influence the individual behavior. If I'm in a bad social group, my individual behavior will get affected. So I should know what is right and wrong for me. That's important. And in adolescence, it's a very, very serious issue because we have heard enough, we are seeing a lot of these kind of things, and it's very important to protect them from getting into negative influences at that stage. And genetics and brain development are also interlinked to the way we engage ourselves with society and people in the society. So this is something which is not in our control, but definitely engaging in different social groups can also help us overcome these challenges of other issues that we face from the genetic issues. Social isolation can cause severe mental health issues and then depression. Now, we need not see mental health issues and depression as stigma. We need to start seeing this as, we need to start recognizing and understanding that this is genuine and this is a problem that exists, and anybody at any point of time can go through these kind of issues. So all that we need to see is how to seek help and overcome is very, very important, and one has to be aware of that. We should know when we are feeling low and when we are feeling that wanting to be socially isolated. Those are the times that we need to move out of that those kind of feelings. And definitely with age, people going into depression and getting mentally affected is becoming very, very common these days. Again, it's the social structure. Earlier, we used to have, joint families, and now with all nuclear families, it's become very difficult for aged people to manage themselves. There's nobody to interact, and then they are being pushed into severe mental health issues. And yeah, so basically, increased group membership decreases risk of depression. So that is why, these old age homes and other things are also playing an important role in helping people come out of depression, at least in the case of aged people. Whereas in the case of others, yes, we must engage in some way or the other with groups. So, to conclude, I would like to say positive social connectedness plays a key role in the success of an individual. So, it starts with the family, how we have a relationship with our spouse, our child, our parents, our siblings, has a great impact on how we are in our professional or in our college environment, studying environment, and then how we are there, how our relationship is there with other people also has an important role in our success. So if as an individual, if I have good family life, if I have good social life, definitely we will be able to contribute better to the society and maintain the society around us also in a better way. So, how can we build social connectedness? In the video that you saw in the beginning, there were some statements and some activities on how one can go about maintaining. Some were applicable to us, some, of course, were specific to Canada. That is different. So, I just want you all to, at the end of this session today, take 5 minutes out and think of a situation where you felt low in your life. You might have felt low at various stages in your life. Try and list maybe as many as possible that you can. And think of a situation when you felt outcast in a group. You were part of some group. You either you were in a party or you were in your neighborhood or in your college circle or wherever it is, social or professional circle. When you felt that you were an outcast, when you felt now when you feel that that day something like that happened because I didn't belong to that group, and then what they were discussing, what they were talking was not something related to, if there has been any such situation, just make note of that today. And then of course these things happened in the past, so you now try to analyze what helped you to overcome that, whether you were able to overcome all that by yourself, or you thought about it for days together, and did it affect your physical health and mental health in some way. Many a times when we face any such situations, normally we get headaches, we are sleepless, and then we see how that has affected us over a period of time, maybe weeks together, months together, it might have affected us. So we have definitely already tried and overcome these kind of issues. So you need to now be alert on seeing what were those issues and how you managed to overcome, and see to it that in future you don't let these kind of situations overtake, overpower you, and then Like, let's say, for example, when you felt low last time when it happened, you took 1 month, 1.5 months to overcome. But then you did something at the end of that 1.5 month which made you come overcome it fast. So now, if you make a note of what was that, now this time when you feel low, you're not going to suffer for another 1 month or 1.5 month. You will be able to overcome it much faster. Maybe you reached out to somebody, you shared it with somebody, you spoke to somebody, you think about that, what was it now, and then manage it. Similarly, let's say you're engaged in some research work or some collaborative work in the institution, then you were just not getting the result. Maybe you were in the wrong group, and then you were trying to force yourself to work with the wrong group which was not agreeing to your point of view, or they were not people who were open to new ideas and new ways of working. Then you were definitely in the wrong group. So now next time when you're going to be given some responsibilities, your voice matters. You can always say that you're doubtful of getting results with this kind of people with whom I'm working now. Instead of these people, I want to take people with whom I can work. If you're given the responsibility, official responsibility as lead, you have the right, and your voice matters. You can always express that you are apprehensive about getting results with the group that is being given, so you want to change the composition of the group and work. So that solves the problem for everybody. Even the others who are not able to gel with us are also relieved of that kind of pain. And then the outcomes are going to be better when this happens. So some simple things that we could do is, maybe yesterday you've had some tips given to you already. One common thing that we should do is develop this habit of journaling. Writing down helps us a lot. It's a way of trying to put out our emotions and our whatever things that we are having. If you don't have that social connectedness, 100%, it is always better to speak to someone and share it. If that is not possible, then maybe journalism. Get into some sort of stress busting hobbies or practices. Like, if I'm feeling bad, I may just go for a walk. Going for a walk gives some sort of physiological change to the body, and then that also influences brain, and then uh, we may forget what issues we were facing or what stress we were facing, and then things will be normal soon. And be open to share with the social group that you have or the family members that you have. That's very, very important. And please be open about reaching out and talking to people concerned, and then seek help whenever required, of any kind of help that is required. What will maximum happen? They will consider it or they will not consider it. So don't always keep imagining things in your own mind, and then don't stop. Your voice matters, and make sure that you are all of us are here for a purpose, whether it is a, 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 an official professional environment or a family or wherever it is. We must play our role right, and in that our voice, our opinions also matter a lot, and we must not suppress our own voices. We must make sure that we do express, talk it out. If it is taken, not taken, nothing to worry. There's no loss to anybody with that. Yeah, so thank you so much. And lastly, I just want to mention one thing. I think this is for mostly faculty, college teachers. I think we are seeing, you might have already seen increasing number of students who are getting into this mental health issues and a lot of these kind of things. I think we do have a bigger responsibility of protecting, of course, our own mental health. Apart from that, the students, it's very, very important to identify small behavioral changes in them. And I think all colleges do have counselors and everything else. So connecting the dots, connecting the counselors with such students who may need support is very, very essential. And we will be doing a big service if at all we help more and more children overcome these kind of mental health issues that they are facing, whether they are in final year, whichever year they are. It will be a great thing. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Department of Electronics, SVCE, and the entire management for giving me the opportunity to do this. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. And we have some queries
Yes, ma'am.
from the participants.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Akanksha Sharma has asked you that the students are initially very social, but when
Hmm.
placement starts, there is jealousy and unhealthy competition will be there. How to counsel them?
Okay, this is something which comes only with wisdom, how to face unhealthy competition. So it is true what you're saying, and most often relationships also get spoiled because of this unhealthy competition and things like that. So I think the biggest way to overcome this unhealthy competition is being self-aware of your own strengths and your own needs and your own capacities. When you know what you are, everything will be fine, and you don't have to share everything with people around you, isn't it? That is what you mean by healthy unhealthy competition. Like for example, I want to do something and I will announce it today. Tomorrow somebody else has already done that. So then what happens is you start getting affected by that. So the best way to deal with it is be aware of where you stand, what is your competency, what is your capacity, and if you find a certain person is being unhealthy, engaging in unhealthy competition, you can limit your interactions with that person to normal social issues and not anything to do with your academic issues. That will be one way of drawing boundary around you, and that's very very essential. This you can make out in your early years itself. Of course, now you've already probably finished your early years. You're already here. This has been an experience probably for you in the college. So this should be a learning for you in future, because unhealthy competition is not just in college and placements. It will be there at workplace. It will be there in your own family. Anywhere you can face that. So drawing boundaries and knowing the limits, being self-aware is very, very important. I hope I've answered this
Yeah,
one.
one more is there, ma'am. Lot of problems in social connectivity with introvert kind of people. What they can do to increase their social connectivity? Your opinion on this?
Yeah, see, I think that is what, we saw one thing about social brain we discussed, and then I also mentioned about genetics also playing an important role. There are many factors. So we normally categorize people as introvert, extrovert. We know that. But then if a person is introvert or extrovert, there are factors responsible for that. One is genetics, one is as a child what that person, how that person was suppressed, or how the family environment was of that person, and also of to some extent genetic makeup also is responsible for that. Now you've asked this question, how can such people be helped? First of all, such people have to realize that they need help and they have to come and ask for help. Otherwise, if let's say for example I'm in a group and I notice that somebody is like that, then the best way we can do is start engaging with them, involving them in some conversations, simple conversations, and of their liking, allow them to start talking with simple topics first, and then gradually they will also start talking about other things that they may be facing. And definitely it's not an easy task. It requires a lot of work on such people. And today, the kind of situation in which we are, I don't think any of us want to give that kind of personal attention and time to any individual. It's not possible. So one best way of doing that is group. Come as a group, interact with such people, make them speak on general issues first, and then gradually link it to other issues, and then they will be able to speak out.
One more, ma'am, from Aarti Kunwar. If a
Mhm.
student finds out himself in a out group in a class, what can he do to make himself comfortable and fit into that out group?
Okay, now, first of all, the question is whether you want to force fit ourselves in a group like that is a big question mark, because normally if we are out group, if we don't belong to one particular group, there are reasons for it. One is our principles, our way of thinking is different, and what, because most some people, normally the people who find themselves as out group are people who are more practical, who are more sensible, I can say, because I mean, maybe their ways of thinking is very very different, and off late you see many people, being like that. So first of all, that decision to make whether I want to force fit myself in a group is something that we have to decide. And it doesn't mean that if I'm hanging out with a group is the only thing and that is the only way of social connectedness. Please don't be under that kind of an impression. When we say social connectedness, it is basically to meet our basic needs of emotional support, information, or that kind of psychological support from the other people, and other material support that we may need. These are the three basic things that we seek from people. Of all the things, most important is emotional support. So it's not necessary that you have to have that big group only to be there to give the emotional support. Or it could just be one individual. It could be our parent, our sibling, or anybody. So then this group where you are feeling you're an outcast or you're an out group, you don't have to force fit yourself there for all your needs. That group can be utilized only for normal interactions, and just hang around with that group only for normal things, because in a college environment or in an academic environment, or even in society for that matter, sometimes we have to uh, put up with many things, and it's not necessary that we have to be 100% involved there, but just be there. Who knows, gradually you may start, one or two people from there belonging to your way of thinking or your kind of group. Then there may be another subgroup that may get subgroup formation that may happen. So that is what I would like to say there, ma'am.
One more,
Yes, ma'am.
last one, that is, should we change our personality for social connectedness?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. That is what I meant by should you force fit yourself somewhere. It is not necessary for us to change our personality 100%. But sometimes, yes, if you see that a group, I mean, like let's say, for example, we are at a workplace, and then as a group, we have some deliverables that have to be done, and if my personality is becoming a roadblock for the deliverable to be achieved, if I am being constantly naggy, negative kind of behaviors are there, then definitely yes, we must change ourselves. But then if we have certain principles of say this is the quality of output that I want to give, then there's no need for us to change our personality. The best thing that we can do in such circumstances is do not be 100% involved. Do your bit to that particular group effort and leave the rest. Don't go behind finding your quality or your kind of results that you're expecting. Do your bit, always do your bit, but do not force yourself to fit somewhere, or don't change your personality and your ethics to fit somewhere. It's not necessary. It's my personal opinion. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for the informative session, ma'am. We'd like to thank Dr. Shobha Ananda Reddy from the organizing committee for accepting our invitation and gracing this event. And we'd like to thank all the participants for your active response. And I request all the participants to join for the tomorrow's morning session by Mr. Raghudeep Madineni on the topic teamwork and winning the mindset. We'll resume in the morning session. Now, we'd like to conclude the day two of the 5-day AICT Training and Learning Academy sponsored online faculty development program on training for social connectedness and inspiration. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.